Again, Retell lecture. You will listen to a lecture. Typically, based on the lecture, you may or may not get an image. Right after the lecture ends, you will get about 10 seconds for preparing, and you have to speak for about 40 seconds. So what are the things that you have to keep in mind here? When you are listening to the lecture, of course, it's an integrated task. It contributes towards listening and speaking. It carries medium to high weightage. Considered to be a difficult question by many test takers. Here also, the point is that many test takers may not be listening it with an intent to understand, right? So it's always, if you have that intent to understand, then most of the times you will get the context of the lecture. If you are not focused, then that may create problems. So it's very important that you practice and then get into that habit of listening to it carefully. Do you know, in your daily life activity, which is that segment out of all these four communicative skills that we have: speaking, writing, reading, and listening, which is that particular task that you do frequently in your daily life, most frequently in your daily life? Do you understand my question? So we have four communicative skills: speaking, writing, reading, and listening. Out of these four categories, which is that one segment which is repeat, which contributes almost 70 to 80% of daily life activity for majority of people, most of the people? Speaking, 80% of your daily activity is speaking. Maybe, I don't know. It could be. Anyone else? Just think. It's a very simple question, general question. Reading. Okay. Yeah. So maybe we have a very special bunch of test takers here today. Okay. So typically, this is what the research suggests. I mean, this is what the research suggests, that 80% of the daily activity is listening, is related to listening. Okay. So you listen to, I mean, in your daily life, you listen a lot. And maybe that is one of the reasons that a lot of people consider listening to be not that significant, which is why you may not be listening to each and every word clearly, right? Because in your normal conversation, you will be listening to a complete sentence, you understand the meaning of it, you leave it there, right? So what you have to do here is you have to listen to each and every word. That is what makes the difference from your daily life activity. So this is why it is very important to get into the process of practicing it out. All right, so let's see what can we do here. Nature of the audio, typically the length is about 60 to 90 seconds. Pace is typically medium. Most of the times students will be able to capture it. Context is academic. Varun, any question not related to PT speaking, we will take in the next session. Probably we'll have a PT writing session also next week. So you can take those questions then. Is that fine? Or else, you can, as I said, suggested, you can give a PT diagnostic test and apply for evaluation. We will look into it. Okay, so here is where I have an audio. So what I will do is I will just play an audio. I want you guys to note down important information in it, and let's see how well you can do this exercise. Shall we start? Or are you guys tired? Okay, let me hear few more yeses. Nevin, yes. How about Chandan, Sudhir? So listen to this carefully.
Today, 150,000 farmers in India have committed suicide in areas where seed has been destroyed, where they have to buy the seed from Monsanto and buy it every year at very, very high cost. And that high cost seed is getting them into debt, and that debt is pushing them to suicide. What we've done is create community seed banks, places where we collect and save seeds, rescue them from disappearance, multiply them, and then distribute them according to farmers' needs. And about 40 community seed banks have been created across the length and breadth of India. Places where these have been created, farmers are not in distress, because the biggest cost today is seeds and chemicals. These seed banks have now been a new place where we can respond to the new crisis of globalization on the one hand and climate change on the other. Globalization has led to farmers' suicides. We are able to take seeds to these suicide zones and distribute the seeds so that farmers can break out of that dependency, grow food crops, get out of debt. We've been able to create community seed banks to deal with climate change, with the extreme flooding, the new droughts, the cyclones, the hurricanes that lead to salinization. And today for us, the work on seed has become the place from where we are responding to the worst tragedies and the worst crises of our times.
All right. So, who wants to try this? All right. So let's hear it from Nevin. Yeah, Nevin, start.
Okay. The speaker was discussing about seed banks. Initially, he mentioned about farmers are under crisis because of destruction of the seeds. The main reasons are high cost, and it leads to debt and suicide. He later mentioned about community seed services. It will multiply the seeds and distribute it to farmers, especially in India. He also mentioned that because of the big cost and chemical reactions, it will affect the farmers. He later mentioned about globalization and climate change. The globalization changes to made suicide for the farmers because of the loans and debts. He later mentioned about climate change. It causes flooding, cyclones, hurricanes. Overall, the lecture was very informative about seed banks.
Very good. Okay. See, one good point about Nevin is that he is not fumbling. There are few pronunciation errors, but the good point is that you are confident. The word's clarity is also, to an extent, is good, and your pace is also decent, and you're also trying to communicate it. So good. Anyone else wants to try? No one else? Tired? Chandan. Yes, Chandan. Please go ahead.
This lecture was about suicide of farmers and its remedies. First point revealed that over 150,000 farmers in India have committed suicide, and government needs to look into it. The second point demonstrated that there are more than 40 seed banks which have been opened by government in order to stop this suicide. The third point indicated that the most uh, parts which contribute are seeds and chemical, which are required by farmers at all the times. Another point discussed that that these seeds can be distributed in the suicide zones. In conclusion, we can say that in order to stop this suicide, government needs to take preventive actions.
Good, super, very good. Very good, Chandan. So how do you rate yourself? 7? It was more than 7 anyways. Okay. So this is what I was, really talking about, that once you were really trying to, imagine, I think, maybe I might be wrong, but, if I close my eyes and then just listen to it, I can actually make out what you're saying. And that's the whole point. If you can achieve that kind of responses, if you can deliver that kind of responses, then that's more than sufficient. Yes, initially I felt it was slightly slow, but then later on you picked up, which is good. Anyone else? So see, this is one important thing that all of you should understand. So we were talking about confidence part throughout, right? So some of you who are not responding here, maybe shy here. That's completely fine. But understand that in the exam you should be really really confident. Okay, so if you should not show that shyness in the actual exam. You should speak whatever comes to you. That's it. All right, so let's see some of the strategies that we can. Okay, so here is a transcript which you don't even have to read. One important thing that you have to understand while attempting retail lecture is, of course, if you speak well, the speak if you speak well, the speaking score will be good. You also have to catch keywords. So, for example, Nevin, had actually got a lot of keywords: seed banks, globalization. He also talked about globalization, farmers' suicide. So make sure there will be a lot of keywords in the lecture. That's very important to that lecture. So make sure to make a note of those keywords and make sure that you include those keywords in your response. This is very important because written lecture is not just speaking, it is also listening. Especially if you are aiming for 79 plus, you should definitely get those keywords correct. So if you deliver it smoothly, speaking score will be high. If you deliver it smoothly along with the right keywords, along with their main points, both your speaking and listening score will be high. Is this clear? Okay, I don't think I have to help you get started. Listen to the lecture carefully. Prepare your mind for listening. Okay, so you know that a lecture is coming. So prepare completely focus. Take notes while listening. Make a note of frequently repeated words, numbers, years, etc. Understand the context of the lecture, basically what the lecture is talking about. Again, practice more and more to get rid of the inhibition. This is what I've seen with most of the students, that there is a sort of inhibition that they don't want to speak because they want to be 100% truthful to the computer. I know that I have missed few information, so is it all right if I speak so much that I've heard? These are the things that goes on in students, test takers' mind. You don't even have to think about those things. Whatever you have heard, just deliver those confidently. Right? It's very important that you take notes. But in case if it's a difficult accent sometimes, or if it's maybe the pace you may not be able to catch, in such cases also, what you should do is be confident. Whatever you have heard, deliver that confidently.